Hi, Karen Lovely here, and I have the extraordinary Daniel on the line because we are continuing with his Beyond Belief testimonial case study and the actual in real life results based on objective reality that he is producing out of his commitment to really evolving himself and understanding his mind and where his blind spots come from and what the underlying subconscious blocks have been. And we are now continuing with the same results and the testimonial of where we left it last was, and he'll go over this, we left it off where he had a huge interview with a big client, and he was normally, it's normal to be scared and apprehensive. That's normal. And then he aced it, and we're going to start from there. That said, Daniel, thank you so much for being here and continuing, because to hear these results, number one, are so fantastic for you to represent it, so that you can remember when the going gets tough, but to relive it and say it out loud again to someone else really helps that rewiring process, so that you become unconsciously proficient in the realm of the reprogramming and creating, success on your terms from a happy, confident sense of yourself. So that said, okay, woo! Tell me what's happened. Where we, recap where we left it, right, and go from there.
We're going to rewind a little bit, what I mean?
Rewind. Yeah, rewind.
Okay. So before I had my first podcast with you, Karen, I had reached out to a local restaurant here in Austin. They have 2 locations, I believe, but they're a really high-end restaurant. They bring in, probably more than $1 million every single month.
Wow.
Right?
Uh-huh.
And so I had reached out to them, and
to offer your services of social media marketing, right?
Yes, of social media marketing.
Yes.
And so they, I had reached out to them, but then later on they reached out to me, and then we talked for a while, and then we set up a meeting, an appointment, right? Because they wanted to see what I brought to the table.
Right.
And funny thing is, how the universe has it. Our meeting was on a Monday, and I remember I had scheduled a podcast with you the Saturday just before that Monday.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it's crazy how that worked out, right?
Yeah, and it was your coaching podcast where I formally coached you.
Yes. It was the formal coaching podcast, yes. Mm-hmm. And, I started the podcast, and, in the podcast, I was telling you, one thing I always struggled with was sales, and we had dived deep in the podcast, and I had discovered that, I had fear of rejection, right? So whenever I would have these sales meetings, I would get shaky, I start stuttering, I start second guessing myself whenever, the customer client would start, giving me objections, showing his doubts.
Yes.
Right? But then in that podcast, that podcast that, that formal coaching session that we had, what I had learned and what you had so amazingly taught me, Karen, was that I had put others people's judgments, or I had put things outside of me to define my self-worth, rather than just loving myself and caring for myself for the person that I already am, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the biggest thing that I took away from that podcast. And
which stemmed from your father, just to throw that in. Yes, that you had no idea.
Right, exactly. I was not consciously aware that it stemmed from my father.
Right.
Until that day when you told me. And it was like a mind blowing, like, wow, because like, when I thought, a client saying no, how could that tie down to my father? Like me, like, I'm just like, how does that make sense? This client has nothing to do with my father. He's just, he owns a restaurant, blah, blah, right? But it's crazy how, like, the chain definitely leads back to my father, right? The rejection
Yes.
of my father, right?
It's identical. Yes.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Exactly.
Right.
And
Wow.
so I remember exactly how you said it, Karen. I remember you told me on that podcast, you said, it doesn't matter if my dad had said, I don't care about you. It doesn't matter if you would have told me in person. You told me that it doesn't matter if you would have said, I don't care about you. That has nothing to do with me caring for myself.
Right.
And so what I learned a lot of things, but what I learned is that I had taken a perception that was completely subjective, completely false, honestly.
Yep.
Completely illogical, from, my dad choosing not to be in the family. And that was just so huge. You helped me realize that part of the brain, or that part of, humans, is that's what we do. We look at things that happen to us and we take a certain perception or a certain, belief from that. That's completely subjective, completely false, completely illogical, right? And so
Yes.
that was just mind blowing.
I know.
And also another thing is that you managed to get the podcast up before the meeting, so that way I could listen to it before the meeting, right?
Right, which is part of your training. If you're training for elite mental performance, it's like any type of training.
Yep.
Right? I said, okay, let's get the podcast up, which I did it purposefully and said listen to it, but the key was you listen to it. So, right? Yes. Just before you said? Or when did you listen to it?
Just before, yeah.
The meeting.
Right before.
Yes. Yeah.
Right before the meeting. Yep.
And you were pumped.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And like I said, what I learned from that podcast was just I love myself unconditionally, whether or not clients say no, whether or not people say no, whether or not my parents love me or not, whether or not my friends love me or not. As long as I love myself, it doesn't matter how much money I make, it doesn't matter anything. As long as I just love myself for the human being that I am right now.
Yes.
And be free right here, right now, without needing money, needing clients, needing anything. As long as I can have that mindset now, that was the biggest thing. And I can tell you that at that moment, I truly felt free.
Yeah.
You truly feel free.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's definitely still takes some work. Still repeating the good habits that I do.
Mm-hmm.
But listen to the podcast before the meeting. I walked into the meeting on Monday. I came in, and I tell you, this was the toughest meeting that I've ever had. So there's multiple things that went on with this meeting. The first thing is that there were 5 people sitting at a table looking at me, staring at me.
like an acting audition that I've done.
Yeah.
Oh God, that is the worst. Okay, yeah. 5 people staring at you as you walked in, yes?
Yeah, 5 people staring at me as we walk in. And so I have to present myself in front of 5 people, right? Yeah. And I struggle with just one person. Let alone 5 people.
and all your other client meetings have just been one person.
Yes, exactly.
And you've been stuttering, and you felt not as confident.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Wow. Oh my God. Thank God you got into coaching. Oh, I'm getting nervous listening to the story. Oh, thank God. 5 people. Okay. Continue. Yep. Yeah.
And then I was presenting. I just felt so different walking in. I came in with the mindset that, okay, I truly believe in my services. I love what I do, and I am the best at what I do, right?
Yes.
And if these people say no, if they say they don't want my services, then that doesn't mean that I love myself any less. Right. It doesn't mean that, it doesn't mean that I'm not careable. It doesn't mean that I'm not lovable.
Or a failure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that was the problem that I had, when clients would say no, I just feel so down. I feel so out of it, just crash down.
Yeah.
So this time was just completely different energy.
Yes.
And I just felt it, So when I would talk, it was with so much confidence. I didn't stutter. And, I just presented my case, presented how I could help them, clearly, positively. And then on top of it, there being 5 people, there's this one girl in particular who was, challenging me, right? She was just like, okay, let me see the results. Let me see the numbers. Or she was like, how are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? just challenging me on everything, right? So,
oh, the skeptic.
Yeah, the skeptic.
And who wanted hardcore evidence.
Yeah, hardcore.
Proof.
Yeah. And so the great thing about it was that, you know, I remember, like, normally, like, when something like that happens, even though I have the results, the proof and everything, sometimes, you know, I would still just crash, or, you know, still like fold, right? But this time, you know, I was confident. I was like, I believe in myself. You know, I love myself no matter what happens. And so just having that mindset to beginning is like, it just makes you really feel free, right?
Yes.
So, you know, I was calm when I spoke to her. You know, I was calm. And, you know, I presented what I had clearly, concisely, so everyone was able to understand.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did it, right? So when I presented everything that I had, the owner had to leave. I'm not sure why he had to leave, but he had to leave in the middle of the meeting, the main decision maker.
Yes, the owner.
Yes. And so because he left, like, during the middle of the meeting, the rest of the people, the rest of the 4 people that were there, you know, they would talk to him later about what they thought, and then, you know, schedule another meeting, right?
Yep.
But there was another lady in particular, because there were like 3 women and then 2 male, right, including the owner. And so one woman was challenging me, right, and then there was another woman who was like just telling me, like, I really want you on our team, like, we really need you. And, you know, she was just telling me all the problems that they were having, you know, as a team, you know, that the lack of communication, they felt like they were stepping on each other's toes. And she said that she really loved, like, my vibe, my energy. She really liked that I was younger and that, you know, I was just happy and just brought good energy, right?
Yes.
And so she was like, yes, we really want you. And so she was like one of the main people who, you know, was in the owner's ear, right? Just telling him about me.
Oh.
So I kept following up with her. And the crazy thing is, Karen, is another problem that I had was I would just never follow up with people. You know what I mean? I would just
that's huge, Daniel. That's huge.
Yeah. I would never follow up with people because I would always think, they're probably not going to, you know, want to do it anyway. There's no point. I'm just wasting my time. Or, you know, that was the main thing, is that I thought I was wasting my time because they wouldn't be interested anymore, right? But, you know, I just kept following up. You know, seeing how she was doing, and she always said, yeah, you know, I'm going to keep telling him, I'm going to keep telling the owner to set up another meeting with you. And so finally, I had followed up with her this week, probably like on Monday. I sent her another message, you know, with some free advice, you know, some tips that they could do with their social media. Ooh, and she was like, love it. She's like, love it. And then she said, all right, the owner is ready to book another appointment with you. And so the funny thing is, I went to the restaurant yesterday for a networking event. There was a networking event, a business networking event that was there, you know, randomly at the restaurant.
Well,
right?
My God, that's the amazing energy. It's like, oh my God, it just lands, it just comes right to you. Yeah. Right? Okay.
And so I showed up to the event, and the meeting hasn't even been booked yet. She just told me the owner was ready, but, you know, the meeting hasn't been booked yet. He hadn't reached out to me, so I was just there at the networking event, just meeting, you know, other business owners, you know, getting to meet new people. And then I see him come. I remember I was in the middle of talking to someone that he just comes from, I'm not sure where he came from, I guess his office, and then he said, hey, what's up? You know, we greet each other, and she said, hey, whenever you're ready, or whenever you're, you know, done talking, come meet me in my office, right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
So, you know, I get done talking, and then I go meet him to his office, and then, you know, he and 2 other people were there. And right, and so he was like, all right, you know, this is another meeting. We really want to know, like, the strategy you have for us, you know. And so the first thing I found out was their goals, right? Their goals as a restaurant. That was the first thing I figured out. And then the crazy thing is, Karen, is that, like, because I have so much confidence, so much belief and passion in what I do, and, you know, the fact that I love myself no matter what. Yeah. Like, I brought them a strategy. You know, I brought out a piece of paper. I got out a marker, anything I could find. Yeah. And I was like, okay, here's a strategy. Here's how we're going to get to your goals as a month, as a restaurant. Here's how we're going to get to your goals, your revenue goals, your customer goals. And, you know, I laid out a 4-step strategy right then and there. Like, they were able to understand. I had, like, everything thought out, and they were just like, yes, we really want this. And so then he asked me, when are you ready to start? And I told him, I'm ready to start now. And he's like, okay, well, welcome to the family.
Oh my God. Congratulations. Okay. So so the confidence, the no stuttering, you became a magnetic force, right? You kept following up, which you never do, because I coached you to follow up. Yes?
Right. Yes.
Yes. And you did. And you followed through because you felt so confident.
Yes.
You're just going about your business, feeling good. You're in the zone. You're in the groove. Yeah.
Yep.
And then you just happen to, you are networking. You're proactive. And it just so happens that this business networking event happened to be at the same restaurant.
Yes.
Oh my God. It's like the Wendy's thing.
Yes.
Right? Which I say coach you to become a magnetic force, to be a magnet. Yes? And then everything, it's got like behind the scenes, it's almost, I joke, it's like, I gave the restaurants a call and I told them to have the networking event there so that you'd show up. It's almost like weird, isn't it? Like do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then he saw you didn't see him. You weren't looking for him, were you?
No, I wasn't. I didn't expect him to be there,
Yeah, you just were doing your thing, and then he spotted you. It's almost like from across the room. He came out of nowhere, and then you're at a networking event, but he calls you into the office.
Right.
You weren't even there for that, right?
Right, exactly. Like, I did not expect that at all. I was just there for the event. Then after that, I was just going to leave.
Well, oh, my God. And you knew, and you felt good about it, and you weren't forcing anything. You just, again, you were confident. You were following up. You believed in yourself. You weren't second-guessing yourself. And she said, we're ready. When you're ready, you're great. Let's book it. And you're just doing your thing. Yes? Not attached. No expectation. That's attractive, isn't it?
Yes.
Not needy or desperate or forcing yourself to get them to sign the check and, hand you the money. So, speaking of checks, so he said, ready to get started. Did he write the check right there?
So what I actually proposed was a 2 weeks, a 2 week free trial.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yes.
And I'm not afraid to do that at all because I already know that it's gonna work. Like what I'm really passionate about what I do. Right. And I'm really, really great at what I do. Yes. And I already know that it's gonna work within 2 weeks. So yeah, that's what we agreed upon. And then we agreed upon the package, and then along with 2 weeks free, so they could see, what exactly it is I do. But even then, it's just like I already know what's gonna. I already know I'm just gonna do such a great job. I think the only thing that can stop me is myself, honestly, at this point.
Well, and that's always what it comes down to. Truth be told, yes. Mm-hmm. Oh, so you're very confident. You're, under promising, over delivering, so to speak. Yes, you're showing up. You're being generous. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then they already agreed on the package. Yes. So it's a done deal. The contract, the money's there, and the deal's done. Plus, you gave them a bonus. Yes. Right, which is fantastic. And you're very confident. And also, so you're a social media marketing expert, and your niche, because the riches are in the niches, which you've been learning also, is restaurants. You cater to restaurants. No pun intended, yes? Yes. No pun intended. And so you're an expert in the restaurant sector, so to speak, which is genius. Mm-hmm. And also, just to throw in, because we've been talking, because you are now in my men's masterclass group, the Elite Evolved Entrepreneurial Group for Men, which we already started. So you're still in training, yes. So, which is awesome. But as you're going along, you are implementing the coaching and doing the homework and practicing, and you keep showing up, and the results just are really landing in your lap, it sounds like.
Yes. Honestly, I'm going to be very honest, even to this day, because, it just happened yesterday. Yeah. It kind of feels like I'm in a dream, you know what I mean? Because, like this restaurant is a really high-end restaurant, they're really high-class restaurant. And, to land a client like that, it's kind of like, I really do kind of feel like, am I dreaming right now? Like,
Yeah.
is this real? Like, is this reality? You know what I mean? And it's just...
I live it. That's why I teach it and coach it, because it's kind of, who else can you talk to about it? Less other people who experience it. But yeah, I totally know what you mean, right?
Right.
When I look out on my ranch and I see my horse galloping down, out there, I'm like, is she even real? The whole story behind it is the same thing. I thought of her and she showed up out of nowhere. It's the same story.
Right. Exactly.
It's like your client, like this restaurant is that horse to me.
Right.
Right? And you're that client for me. The ones who are willing to train, like, Olympic athletes with that mental mindset, And there it is. And then you're attracting like-minded, high-end, committed clients, and you're being of service to them. So this is amazing. Yes. And by design, this is not an accident. Right? Stephen Curry did not become him without so many no's to be the best of the best, And so that's what you're doing, which oh my God, I just love hearing it. And then the difference, like the dream part is, it is a dream and it feels like a dream because the other way was more predominant, the quote unquote nightmare way, if you will.
Right.
Can you see when you're looking backwards before the coaching and before committing yourself to elite mental performance? Do you see how you were your own worst enemy as you were stopping yourself because you weren't believing in yourself and taking care of yourself?
Right. Exactly.
And so then you weren't landing the clients, nor were you attracting high-end clients.
Right.
Is that true? Exactly. I'm kind of asking.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. And the reason why I wasn't reaching them in the first place was because I wasn't, the reason I wasn't attracting them in the first place was because I didn't have, the confidence to even approach them. You know what I mean? Yes.
Yeah. And you were second guessing yourself. Then you're showing up when you did because you kept putting yourself out there. You had meetings, but you weren't showing up as confidently.
Right.
And self-lovingly, where you were still blindsided by your own disempowering beliefs about yourself, again, stemming from childhood that you had no idea was even affecting you. Right? And here you are. So congratulations on this client. Now, from the point that we started, I think it's been several weeks. I think this took, 2 weeks?
Yes, I think. Maybe 2 to 3.
Yeah, I think 2 to 3.
Yep.
So sustaining and maintaining, your energy, your mindset, your passion.
Yep.
Most people, like you said, you wouldn't even follow up because you already had it that they're not going to hire you.
Right.
And this time you just stayed steady the course.
Yep.
And this is what stops all of us, is we can't maintain and sustain to follow up and follow up and follow up. And so then we don't, quote unquote, sign the contract, close the deal, and make it a win-win proposition.
Right.
So that's the big difference, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. Anything else you can think of that you want to share? I'm just like, oh my God. And when you say this, they have just 2 restaurants. It's not a chain or anything that I would know.
No, it's not. It's not like a huge corporate chain.
Right.
But they're just a very big local restaurant.
Yeah, local restaurant, but high end. Yes.
Yeah, it's high end.
I love those types of restaurants, especially when they're not chains.
Right.
Not to say they couldn't become a chain.
Right.
But this is an elite, exclusive type high end restaurant. Sounds like. Okay. Yep. All right. So that said, would you say any last words? What is the greatest thing, that you just so love about this whole experience in your process?
I think honestly that's just such a difficult question because there's just so many things that were great. Honestly, I think the biggest factor that got me to this point was just choosing to invest in myself, right?
Yeah.
So first with books, first with some courses, and then, investing with you, Karen, investing in, the formal coaching podcast, and then now in the elite young entrepreneurs group.
Yeah.
Just investing in myself, honestly, has been the biggest thing that I feel like has gotten me to this point in my life. And obviously I'm not done yet. There's still so many more things that...
This is just the beginning.
This is just the beginning, exactly.
Oh my God. Yikes. And I say yikes in a great way. And you had already been doing the work, in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. This is more of the refining work. You were building yourself up to even be able to handle this work in a way. Yes?
Yes.
And so it's really showing up and paying off, isn't it? The training and the reading. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And
everything.
Yes. This is at no... this was not an accident, and this is not like la-di-da, you just kind of kicking it. Isn't that true? You've been very focused. You've been, proactive.
Yes.
You've been looking and searching, and then willing to learn.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And willing to, face those fears, those demons that, I don't, that I'm not comfortable, facing, right? So what I mean by that is, when I reached out to this client, it was even hard for me to just send out a message, you know what I mean? Because I just didn't believe in myself.
Yeah.
And so, when I learned from you that, it doesn't matter if, people say no to us or, as long as we care about ourselves, unconditionally, that's all that matters. And just having that mindset really has helped me so much to just, showing the message out there. Okay, if he says no, and it doesn't mean I love myself any less. Right.
Yeah.
That was just so huge, honestly, for me.
That's really it at the end of the day, which you so get. And then let's not forget the passion part. This, you started a business, an entrepreneurial venture and business, based on your passion and what you love and what excites you.
Right.
And you exude that. Yes. And then, so we have that. So the confidence first, that's always the first thing.
Right.
But it's great that you were able to trust yourself to go for a business that you really love.
Right.
So this just catapults the whole thing. And sure enough, you're reaping the results.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not fixated on them. Is that it's inevitable. By the way, it's absolutely inevitable that the results will show up. As to when, I'll tell you when. It's when you are at your best in the zone and you're not attached to it and forcing anything. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Right. So, my gosh, thank you so much. You are blowing my mind here with the whole story. And the way that you share it, it's just so exciting. I'm like reliving it with you. Doesn't it feel like that?
Yes, it does, honestly.
And then, so here's how it turns from feeling like a dream, that dreaminess, which is a thing, is represencing it over and over again and reliving it in your mind to keep you at that very high vibration. Right. Yes? And that's what has us be able to sustain it. So, that's why it's so great that we do this testimonial, type situation, because you get to hear it. But do you hear how excited I'm getting? I'm just like, I'm trying not to interrupt. I'm just like, oh my God, that's like, what?
Right.
So I thank you for that, because you're actually adding energy, right at this moment, because we did this as an impromptu. So congratulations. You deserve it. It's so great to know that you did the work for it and now look at the rewards.
Right.
So you're not going to be a one-hit wonder, so to speak. Yes?
Right. Yes.
Nobody wants to be a one-hit wonder.
Right.
And it's nice, but you're going to be, a wonder for the long term.
Yes.
And that's what's happening. And that's, you're committed to that. And sure enough, bam. So I'm excited for you. I love it. And, you've also been so magnetic and attractive that other people have been wanting to hire you out of this. Isn't that, yeah? Was that happening before? So much?
It wasn't happening to that extent.
Yeah.
There were, a couple of people here and there who, needed some help. But really, it started happening a lot, after, the coaching. Like, there's different people, real estate, insurance. There's another company that I think they sell, like, playground
equipment
things to schools. Yeah, playground equipment to schools. I didn't even know something like that existed. I was like, I didn't know they had companies that sold playgrounds, to schools and stuff like that. There's different people in different types of industries. And so it was just, like, really astonishing to see all that. But I think the important thing is that, like we talked about, the riches are in the niches.
Yes.
So even though it might be tempting to, dabble in something else, restaurants, I really do have a passion for restaurants, and I do love restaurants. I love to eat, and I love what I do, right?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're focusing, and it feels good to you. It resonates with you to focus on just the restaurants right now, yes?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. And because part of me was wishing, oh my God, Daniel could do my social media, but I'm not a restaurant, clearly. Right? But I think it, just so you know, but it would go against what I truly believe is in your best interest.
Right.
And at any point in time you can change. The minute you become the restaurant, social media marketing guy, worldwide, sure.
Yep.
Branch out, have that division of your company, yes?
Yep, exactly.
But this is the whole Coca-Cola thing. I'm not saying I don't support the product, yuck, but their branding and the way that they developed the company is genius. Right. And that's because they know their niche.
Right.
So anyway, that's why they're number one.
So, what do you mean by that? Well, Coca-Cola. Like, how do they brand? How do they?
Oh, okay. So Coca-Cola has they have different products, but their number one product is the original Coca-Cola in the glass bottle. And they never wavered from that.
Right.
And do you know, we see Coca-Cola everywhere.
Right.
Now they have a few other things, but as opposed to their number one competitor, Pepsi.
Right.
Pepsi went and line extended, meaning instead of just focusing on their niche, they became jack of all trades, so to speak, yes?
Right.
And I know this because I studied it, because I paid to study. I mean, I paid for the course with coaches to learn this aspect. So it was fascinating to me. So if you take the two, Pepsi versus Coke, who's number one? Coke. Yeah, by far, yeah?
Yep.
And that's because they didn't get distracted. They stayed true to their product.
Right.
And became number one.
Right.
And that's what I mean by that.
That's huge,
and that's why, and I actually learned in real estate, the riches are in the niches, just learning real estate. And I heard that from the speaker at the front of the room, and it never left my mind, interestingly enough, and it resonates with me. Mm-hmm. And it's true. And then I've lived it. If you have your specific niche, it's like being a neurosurgeon. They get paid a lot of money to do neurosurgery, right? And how many great neurosurgeons are there on the planet? You don't just go to anybody to operate on your brain. Is that true?
Right. Very true.
And you better have some amazing insurance to cover that.
Right.
So it's that kind of thing. Or, being an astronaut. It's just like, okay, you can't touch it. Or a Navy SEAL type of thing in terms of a niche. And it's not necessarily just money. We're not, we're talking about the riches, the prestige that comes along with it, and the notoriety. You see this?
Mm-hmm.
And all of that. So that's a long answer there, but does that make sense?
Yes, makes a lot of sense.
And so this is really awesome. And at any point in time, you can change your mind, but so far, so terrific. And you're killing it. So congratulations, and thank you for sharing your success with us, because it's very inspiring just to hear. And if anybody, this is not, if if I can do it, that's what I say about myself, coming from what I came from. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So that's why we share it this way, is it helps so many other people. And all, no one's better or worse than the next person, is that don't do the crime if you can't do the time. And so you're putting in the time and reaping the benefits and rewards. So you deserve it, and you're amazing. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Karen, for being a huge part of my life, actually, helping me with the coaching and everything. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, you're so welcome. And I live vicariously through you, because your win is my win. Not, it's not like, it's just like, I just love it, when I know it works, and it works. That feeling, just exactly like you said about your system works for your client. And don't you love it when they get the results?
Yes. Oh my gosh, that feeling is just really good.
It's super good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the money's the icing on the cake as a client, a paying client for a for-profit business, but you get super excited when you see the numbers.
Right.
Yeah. And across the board. And so that's exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, thank you all for listening. It's worth the practice and the training. Yes, Daniel. And
yes.
And it's so exciting and happy. So I highly recommend doing it, being it, living it. Okay, pow pow. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Daniel. You're amazing and awesome. And I can't wait to hear the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So congratulations.
Yes. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.